What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for December 23rd, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Monday edition of the podcast. For the first time in a long time, a non-victory Monday. Let's get into it. Eagles lost 36-33, and I didn't watch any of the post-game coverage. I kind of like doing my initial gut reaction. I threw down my notes, went out with my in-laws, took the kids to see the Trains of Tomorrow, so I've read them. So I haven't seen any of the post-game interviews. I haven't checked Twitter or anything like that to see what everybody else is saying. These are just my straight reactions. And I think the first takeaway is, can we finally put to bed the whole, Jalen this, Jalen that? I think him getting knocked out and just the way the offense, they performed well. I mean, don't get me wrong. They did a decent enough job with Kenny Pickett. However, you could tell there was just there's a dynamic piece of that offense that was missing. So hopefully that kind of puts that to bed. And then sticking with Kenny Pickett, I mean, for what he was and his job and his role on this team, I don't think he played bad. I don't think for a backup quarterback, he played about as well as you could expect. Was the first interception bad? Yeah, but he's also a backup quarterback. But I think he did a decent enough job leading the team, especially because Washington loaded the box and knew that, you know what, we're going to make Kenny Pickett beat us. And if Devontae catches that pass, they win the game. So, I don't think Kenny Pickett played bad. I don't think there should ever be, I'm sure there was a lot of people saying, quarterback controversy after he threw the first touchdown to AJ, but no quarterback controversy here. So the defense, and it's hard to say and putting this one on the defense, but yes, they had 5 turnovers. Yes, they had a couple sacks. But you could have played better. You didn't have stops on fourth down. The fact that you give up 60 yards to Jaden Daniels on a fourth down run, you got to clean that up. I think, honestly, the entire game just was a sloppy game top to bottom. I'll get more into the refs and things like that, but I think it started with the coach. I think the coach was not at his best. I think it showed some questionable clock management, kicking a 57-yard field goal with Jake Elliott. Hard to be mad at Jake for that because it was windy. But I swear Jake Elliott has the same face whether he makes a kick or misses a kick. Just figured I'd throw that out there. But the defense needed to make one more stop. And they couldn't get it done. And you're going to have games like this. It's an NFC East game. I think this rivalry between the Eagles and Commanders is growing. It might be back. But you needed one more stop. Devontae needs to make that catch. And if you really think about it, 2 catchable balls this season are essentially what's going to keep the Eagles likely from getting the number 1 seed. Go back to Saquon's catch or drop versus Atlanta, and now Devontae's. Devontae catches that, this game's over, and we're having a different feeling about this game. We're like, all right, what a gritty win. They came out of there, lost their quarterback, this, that, and the other. Now we're talking about the slop and the sloppiness and things like that, but it was just a sloppy game. And I mean, listen, kudos to Jaden Daniels, the real deal. I mean, he threw for 5 touchdown passes. So, he picked apart our defense. And he does have a punchable face, though. I've come to that conclusion yesterday. Jaden Daniels certainly has a punchable face. But I hate, it's hard to do this when the defense forces 5 turnovers. But this one's on the defense. I think once Jalen went down, I think Kenny Pickett played solid enough. Defense has got to be better, especially on fourth down. They played well early. Slay was all over the place, but you cannot be giving up 60-yard runs to the quarterback on fourth down. I don't care how good he is. So you kind of move on. The refs were, and I will never put the blame of a game on the refs because the Eagles certainly had their opportunities. Like I said, Devontae makes that catch. They make one stop, whatever, then it's fine. But there were a ton of missed calls, and honestly, it goes both ways. The one call on Marshawn Lattimore was questionable. I think the second one was more of a legit pass interference, but then he missed the one and the Kenny Pickett threw in the end zone. So it evens out on both sides. But I got to say, I need to know what C.J. Gardner-Johnson said that led to him getting a penalty when he got punched in the face. I mean, that's just, it is what it is. Missed calls, and again, both sides. I'm not saying the refs are why the Eagles lost because it certainly did not. But I don't know, sloppy. That was my takeaway. A very, very sloppy game, and it's unfortunate because it was a winnable game. Very, very winnable, and I think you kind of forget about it. You move on. You just need to lock down that second seed, which the Eagles should have no problem. They looked good in the first quarter with Jalen, though. I mean, that was just about the best you could have expected with Jalen. They were up 14-0. Well, I guess, I guess it was 14-0 with, or no, I guess 7-0, and then Kenny Pickett threw to make it 14-0. But either way, you move on. I mean, I said it yesterday. I knew they were going to lose again. Didn't expect it to be in this fashion. I don't necessarily think it's anything to worry about. Washington's a good team. It's just, like I said, hats off to Jaden Daniels, who played outstanding. Did what he needed to do. They could have very easily folded too, and they stayed with it. But the opportunities were there for the Eagles to win this game. And I guess that, to me, is my takeaway. A missed opportunity and sloppy. And I can't even get mad about the run game and them shutting down Saquon because, quite honestly, they were saying, go ahead, Kenny, beat us. And to his credit, he almost did. But he was a little banged up. Lots of injuries in this game. I'm anxious to see what the injury report is and where we stand. Jordan Davis's, I think, looked the worst out of all of them. So we just move on and we bring on the Cowboys. We just got to make sure. I guess that I haven't looked at the official numbers, but I guess there's still an outside chance for the Eagles to get the 1 seed, but very, very unlikely. They're probably going to be locked into that 2 seed. Take care of business against the Cowboys, win the division, and we move on. But let's go back and revisit the 3 keys from yesterday. I said dodge their punch and counterpunch. They were going to come out and punch you in the mouth. The Eagles actually punched first. Washington basically took the advice that I gave. The Eagles came out and punched first and punched hard and punched often, and they let it slip away. Obviously, Jalen being hurt doesn't help the situation. But I think the Eagles came out on offense and punched the Commanders first. I said to contain Jaden Daniels. No, they did not contain him at all. 5 touchdown passes, 80-some rushing yards. He had the 60 yards or whatever it was on, maybe it was 40, whatever, on fourth down. And definitely a punchable face. So did not do that. I said, let A.J. Cook get Devontae involved. They got Devontae involved, even though he had the drop. A.J. had almost 100 yards and a touchdown. Pulled a couple huge pass interference penalties. So I think they got that. And other than containing Jaden Daniels, the Eagles hit the 3 keys of the game. It's just that Jaden Daniels was that good. But like I said, we move on. I'll have more reaction on this game tomorrow as we look ahead to Dallas. But a game that the Eagles certainly could have and should have won. It was there for the taking, and it's just unfortunate that they let the opportunity slip away. All right, it is the day after a game. It wasn't all bad for the Eagles. They went toe-to-toe with Washington with their backup quarterback. Who's your GOAT of the game? Is it Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, or I'm going to say it's tough to put defensive guys on here because of the way they played, but they did play. There were some bright spots there, and I'm going to do Zach Bond again. He was all over the place. You can make the argument that was Nakobe Dean too, but which one of those four guys, Saquon, A.J., Zach Bond, or Nakobe, is your GOAT of the game? 267-495-8531. That'll get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Give me your reactions to the game. Who's your GOAT? Where do we go from here? It's like I said, it's one of those things I think you just kind of move on from, and they're going to be okay. I think that the team showed a lot rallying around offensively anyway, rallying around Kenny Pickett. It's just the defense, man. They needed one more stop. And again, you're going to have games like that. And that's okay. And get them out now before the postseason starts. But hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get me your thoughts on this game. Some quick housekeeping notes. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mott on Twitter and TikTok. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, also at Jimbo_Mott. I'm on Instagram at PhillyJimbo. Continue to spread the word as we head to the holiday season. You're going to have family coming in, friends. If you're enjoying this, let them know. Give us a listen, and I appreciate the support. We've been featured regularly in the On Pattison newsletter, so give them a shout. Go check them out. Subscribe to their newsletter. Still working this week with some stuff with the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. So good things happening here at this day in Philly sports history. All right, 25 Days of Kindness. As we're wrapping this up, this one is a very personal one to me. Go thank a nurse. Nurses are like the teachers in the healthcare world, and everybody talks about the doctors. The nurses are the ones that make either a doctor's office or a hospital or a procedure center, medical center, where they're the ones that make things go around. So be sure to thank a nurse and be nice to your nurses, because truthfully, they're the ones that know everything. They're the ones that do everything, yet they're the ones that get the most crap. So go thank a nurse. My wife's a nurse. Had to go to work today. Luckily, she is off the next couple days. But go thank a nurse, because truthfully, they're the ones that make your doctor's office or the hospital or wherever you're going to get your medical procedures and services. They're the ones that make the place go around. So go thank a nurse. We do have some Phillies news. They made a trade. Jesus Luzardo and a minor league catcher, Paul McIntosh, are coming to the Phillies in exchange for a couple single A prospects. I guess I didn't really look too much into who they were getting. I know this catcher was the 30th ranked prospect in the Marlins organization, but Jesus Luzardo does provide a lot of depth now to this pitching staff. And I like it. I think this is a low risk, high reward. I don't think he was able to reach his maximum potential when he was down in Miami. So, I mean, and those teams were bad. So I think this is a good low risk, high reward sign or trade for the Phils. He's still under contract for a couple years. And I guess if you're not going to make the offense more patient and better, might as well just kill him with pitching. Might see a lot of 1-0, 2-0 games this year, but Jesus Luzardo coming to the Phillies. Like I said, I like this trade a lot. I think we finally are seeing something. So we'll go from there. Be sure to check out Philly Goat. They got coffee. They got hats, T-shirts, you name it, they got it. Go check out what Philly Goat has to offer. Today's a great day to do it as you're starting to get some holiday gifts. Maybe grandmom gives you that $50 check. Go spend it at Philly Goat. It's well worth it. And then be sure to use that promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order and spend grandma's check on some Philly Goat gear. And then check out my boys at the Clashing Conferences podcast, doing a lot of good things with their sports network, the Sports Fan Network. That is available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. All right, Sixers in action tonight against the Spurs. Not sure if Joe's going to play. I'm sure. I didn't see anything this morning, but I'm sure he's listed as questionable. I guess a lot's going to be determined on how they want to play this, because then they play again on Christmas against Boston. And I'm sure that's the game they want Joe back for. I'm sure that's the game the NBA wants Joe back for. Maybe he can play in both. Be great if he could. So we'll have more on the Sixers tomorrow. And then the Flyers are in action in Pittsburgh tonight to take on the Penguins before they go on their little holiday break, looking to continue that momentum that they started the other night against the Blue Jackets. Quick programming note, we will be here all this week, including Christmas. Christmas obviously will probably be a much shorter podcast, but like I've been saying, the sports world doesn't stop for the holidays, and neither do we. So we will be here all week. Tomorrow I'll probably be more of a normal time. The rest of the week will likely be somewhat later in the morning, more of a weekend schedule, but you will still get This Day in Philly Sports History every day, available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. All right, so today we're going to go back to 1979. And on this day in 1979, the Eagles beat the Bears 27-17 in the NFC Wild Card Game at the Vet. It was their first home playoff game since the 1960 NFL Championship. The Eagles, to their credit, battled back. They were down 17-10 at halftime. Defense stepped up and pitched a shutout in the second half. Harold Carmichael was all over the field for the Eagles. 6 catches, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. Defense forced 3 turnovers and held the Bears to 241 yards, including only 67 rushing yards by Walter Payton. He did score 2 rushing touchdowns, though, but the win set the Eagles up in what everybody believed was going to be a very winnable divisional playoff game down in Tampa Bay against the Buccaneers. They had hopes of playing the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC Championship. Unfortunately for everyone involved, it just wasn't meant to be. The Eagles would lose 24-17 to the Buccaneers. And then the Cowboys got upset by the Rams. So it ended up being Rams-Buccaneers in the NFC Championship game. But on this day, hopes were high in Philly as the Eagles beat the Bears 27-17 in the NFC Wild Card Game, moving on to the divisional round to take on Tampa Bay. Harold Carmichael with 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. But we know the Eagles are still 1 year away from the Super Bowl. Finally today, our forgotten teams in Philly sports history, the OG Philadelphia Wings. And the Wings have a unique history here in Philly. They are a professional lacrosse team. The original, the OOG Wings were from the National Lacrosse League in 1974 and 1975. That league only lasted 2 years. However, the popularity of lacrosse in Philly was worth them exploring when the league came back. The Wings were one of 3 teams that did not go bankrupt. But then the Wings that everyone knows, the OG, I call them the OG Philadelphia Wings from 1987 to 2014, playing games at the Spectrum, the Wells Fargo Center, one of the better teams in the NLL, 6-time champion, 6-time division winner. They were a perennial playoff team. They relocated to New England after the 2014 season. They have 4 numbers that are still retired at the Wells Fargo Center, including Bill Bergey's son, Jake. Number 66 hangs from the rafters in the Wells Fargo Center. But this version of the Wings, even though they moved to New England, there is another. The Wings are back. They were an expansion team for the NLL. They restarted back in 2017. So I'm not sure how it worked for them, whether they kept the team history and everything like that. I'm assuming they did, since Jake Bergey's jersey is still retired. But the Wings were always a fan favorite in Philly. Probably the best known and best liked of those fringe sort of non-major Big Four teams. Probably them and the Soul would probably be the two best known. But today's forgotten team in Philadelphia sports history, the original Philadelphia Wings, not the version that plays now, not the team that played for one season or two seasons, but the one that played at the Wells Fargo Center from 1987 to 2014, won 6 NLL championships, led by Bill Bergey's son, Jake. They do have 4 numbers hanging in the rafters at the Wells Fargo Center still to this day. On this day in 1979, the Eagles beat the Bears 27-17 in the NFC Wild Card Game, setting up a matchup down in Tampa, the first of many Eagles-Tampa Bay Buccaneers playoff games over the years. But it was all about beating the Bears today. We will have more on the Sixers and Flyers tomorrow. I'll have more reaction to the Eagles game. Let me know your thoughts on this game. Anything you want. 267-495-8531. And then who's your go to the game? Saquon, AJ, Zach Bond, or Nakobe Dean? Get your votes in and let me know your thoughts. And again, it's not the best situation. It's not great, but I mean, here we are. And you move on. I think there's plenty of blame to go around top to bottom. Jalen not being in the game did not help. But for me, and I know a lot of people probably are going to disagree with this, but I think you got to put this one on the defense. 5 turnovers and you still lose the game. You needed one stop. I mean, you could put it on Devontae, but again, if the defense makes one more stop at any point during that game, we're having a different conversation. So we move on. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for December 23rd, 2024. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Monday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.